Good evening and welcome to the August 19th Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association meeting. Just a couple of announcements, and you're really going to like this first one. The hottest ticket in town, what is it? Sip and Savor, our own Sip and Savor, featuring hors d'oeuvres, wine from local vendors, and a stunning view with weather guaranteed, right Dale? On the rooftop of the room and board. This annual fundraiser celebrates our neighborhood and our community while raising money for two charities. This year, it's Urban Peak and the Cherry Creek Branch Library. This ticket hot item is made possible by the generosity of our sponsors, the hard work of Dale, who's in the door and isn't listening, and Jane and their committee, the neighborhood volunteers, and most importantly from you, the Cherry Creek residents who have made this such an incredible event. So here's the FYI, mark your calendars, August 26th, 8 a.m. on the Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association website, and tickets go on sale. Our second announcement happened last night. The City Council last night voted 10-3 against a zoning variance on a below-curb patio on the 200 block of Columbine. This is the only block in Cherry Creek North where there's high-density homeowners, hotel guests, office workers, retail shops, restaurants, I'm not done yet, a coffee shop, a post office, diagonal and parallel parking options, as well as a curb-cut street entry to a large parking garage. Lou Raiders, Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Zoning Chair, who's sitting in the back, used her professional expertise to prepare an opposition plan for that resolution hearing. Don and Pam, residents of 250 Columbine, organized the residents, collected petition signatures, documented traffic and safety concerns relative to both the pedestrians and the vehicles on this wild, crazy street. Doug, who's sitting behind me, formatted our survey, distributed notices in the link, and designed a table that gave us responses from 280 responses. These combined efforts made the difference for a no vote. That's when you're supposed to get really excited and clap. Talk about timely. This is a text message I got yesterday. Colorado Department of Vehicles, our records show that as of today, you have a traffic ticket that's outstanding. In accordance with Colorado code, if you do not complete the payment by today, we will do the following. Report it to the DMV, suspend your vehicle, revoke my driver's license, and this is the one I really like. Hand it over to a toll booth and charge a 35% service fee. I haven't seen a toll booth in our neighborhood. So that text really sets the tone for tonight. And some other data just to pique your interest. Personal data breach accounted for $23 million in loss and was about one of the top 3 frequent scams reported in Colorado. In 2024, Denver being a major focus of the scams, here's the part that you have to really be careful to take it personally. Adults over 60 reported the highest number of complaints and suffered losses over $74 million. And the last punchline, in 2024, scammers stole $243 million from victims across Colorado, Denver being the major area of focus. So tonight's topic is very timely, and it is my honor to introduce our speakers. Mark is the program manager for AARP Elder Watch. He works with leading educators and outreach for over 15 years. Mark works with dedicated volunteers to address the thousands of inquiries they receive each month on scams and frauds. Anthony is the Director of Community Outreach and Engagement at the Denver District Attorney's Office. His presentation with Mark's will include information about the latest scams and will share information critical to how we avoid being a victim. Please welcome Mark and Anthony.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. No, thanks for having us here. Very happy to be here, and kudos to Linda for getting me out after 7 for a work event here. I really appreciate the invite, and again, I'm happy to talk about scams all day long because that's what I do. But for those of you who are not familiar with Elder Watch, I just want to give you a little bit of a background, and I don't want to be scared off by the name. I think there's a scam for everybody, and including people of all ages. So it's not just for older adults. I'll say, how many of you? Well, just out of curiosity, how many of you have gotten one of those text messages that Linda just read? Perfect. Yeah. That's kind of what we're hearing. We sent out a postcard to about 60,000 people asking for reports on scams earlier this summer, and I got about 20 phone calls instantly just saying, I got a DMV email, I got a DMV text, I got a DMV this or that. And so that's happening to everybody. And just remember that these are happening to all of us. And so we should be able to talk about them and be able to talk to our friends and neighbors about them. So hopefully we can debunk scams that we're all getting one after one. So Elder Watch is a partnership between AARP and the Colorado Attorney General's Office. It's been around for almost 25 years. I've been the program manager for Elder Watch for just over 10 years, and what we really do is education programs like this, but we also have a helpline, and we have volunteers in our office, not right now, but typically kind of normal business hours, Monday through Friday, answering calls and questions about different types of frauds and scams. So if you have a question about a shady business practice or a text message that you just got, you can always give us a call if you don't have someone else to ask. And so again, give us a call. Our phone number's up on the screen. I also brought a whole bunch of magnets that I'll put out on the stage so you can grab on your way out. So you can, again, have a resource in case you're curious about some type of shady business practice or some type of scam that might be targeting you. In addition to the work that we do on fraud education, we do lots of work on the same link around financial literacy as well too. So if you have questions or looking for resources on financial literacy stuff, we also do that. In our office, we also manage the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline, which is the national helpline for AARP. So when I'm talking about the amount of scams, scam calls and scam reports that we're receiving, in our office we're receiving over 100,000 calls a year of different types of frauds and scams. And so, again, when I'm talking tonight, what I'm going to be talking about is what types of scams we've been hearing about being reported in Colorado. But on a grander scale, I will say that a lot of the information that we get in our office is really based upon what's going on all across the country. We have over 150 volunteers who are helping to do victim support for people who have been victimized by scams. And so again, when I say there's 100,000 people who have called to report scams the last 3 years to AARP, about a third of those people are victims of scams, which means they either lost money or gave personal information as part of some type of a scam. So, when I'm talking tonight about scams, I'm talking about what real people are reporting, not necessarily what are just the sexy topics of the day that people are scared about, that type of a thing, or one-off type of scams. I'm talking about the scams that are actually going on here. So I'm tonight going to talk about kind of the scams that we're hearing about, and then Anthony's going to be talking about kind of red flags about avoiding scams, that type of a thing, just to clarify how we're doing this evening. I don't think we should necessarily do joint presentations together, but it's fun that we are. And so I'm going to talk again about our top 10 list of the most common types of scams we heard about in 2024, and so far what's happening in 2025, in addition to some trends that we're hearing about as well. I think they'll resonate with a lot of you. I will say that I think it's really important when we're thinking about scams, you're going to say, Mark, I'm looking at this list, I'm never going to be the victim of one of those scams. How many of you feel that way? Couple of folks maybe, right? So I think that's fair. But at the same time, I would just warn you and think about this and take it personally in that way, is that when we're thinking about scams, I think there's a scam for everyone. And I'll give my example for the scam for me. I like going to sporting events. I like going to concerts. I'm concert ticket hunting right now for this weekend. I will promise you that. And the thing is, I also really like a deal. Does that resonate with anyone here? So there are tons of ticket scams out there, right? And so I think it's really important that we're acknowledging those different types of things. I'll give you one other example that doesn't show up on this list. Has anyone ever gotten a grandparent scam before? Anybody? A couple of folks have gotten a grandparent scam. If you're not familiar with the grandparent scam, it's essentially the scam where you get a call from someone who says they're your grandson, granddaughter. Sometimes they might say a spouse, a niece, a nephew, that type of a thing. But essentially they're in trouble, and they have an issue, and they need you to help them pay right away for whatever trouble they're in. And so when we're thinking about that type of scam, and we're thinking about the vulnerabilities associated with it, the vulnerability associated with it is you love your family and you want to help take care of them. Does that resonate with anyone? I think that's a scam. Again, I've talked to people on the phone before who've called our helpline they're like, well, I have 2 PhDs and I was running around to every Target in the city trying to find gift cards as a part of this grandparent scam. And the reality is they're a super smart person, but they're also super emotionally attached to that scam. And so you have that type of situation where, again, you want to do anything you can to help that family member in distress, and that scammer hit the right button for you. Because, again, you're trying to take care of your family. So, again, put yourself in the shoes of different situations that you might be in your life, and what you might be vulnerable to at one point. Again, it could be very circumstantial as well, to make yourself a potential victim of a scam of any of these ones on this list. So number 1 on our list is identity theft. Over the last 3 years, identity theft has been the #1 complaint that we've heard in Colorado, as well as on the Fraud Watch Network helpline, which is, again, the national helpline. And when we look at this list, I will tell you that we have over twice as many complaints about identity theft than we do the next one on the list. And I wish I could tell you there's one form of identity theft that is really dominating the list. It's not. There's all different types. It could be a lost wallet, it could be a stolen purse, it could be someone calling someone on the phone and saying, hey, give me the last 4 digits of your social security number. It could be someone saying, I just had a loan taken out in my name, or I got a notification that a loan was attempted to be taken out in my name. How many of you have received a data breach notification over the last 2 years? Anybody? If you haven't, you're going to get one. Because they're coming out by leaps and bounds right now. I think I did a different presentation specifically on identity theft recently, and I think it was 17 trillion records in the last year were out there. And that, again, doesn't mean that you were part of that your identity has been used as some type of situation, but it also means that some bad guy might have your information somewhere. And so my message about identity theft typically for folks is think proactively. How many of you have a credit freeze? Good. That's much better than the normal crowd, I will say. I would say it's about 1 in 3, but about half the folks now. Again, one of the steps that we recommend is credit freeze, and I'll give you a resource on my next slide here of kind of where to go to figure out how to do a credit freeze, check your annual credit report, that type of thing as well. But identity theft has been number 1 and really has been for the last 3 years. I also expect it to be for 2025 once we see all the data from the end of the year. Number 2, imposter business scams. So in 2020 and 2021, imposter business scams were number 1 on this list. Any guesses as to what business it was that scammers were impersonating more than any other business? You might order a bunch of junk from them all the time. There we go, Amazon. Yes. And so I will say scammers recognize the fact that people were ordering more stuff from Amazon than they ever were before and ordering stuff online from ever before. And that's why that scam became number one. Tons of scams related to Amazon, whether it be an email, a phone call, something's wrong with your account. Maybe you purchased a $3,500 TV that you didn't purchase and you're wondering what the heck is going on. You just got an email saying that. But imposter business scams really grew over kind of pandemic time period and have stayed towards the top of this list since then. And they continue to do that. Obviously, it's not just Amazon anymore, though Amazon continues to be a name that they use. I will say that the other names that we see, shipping entities, the FedExes of the world, the UPSs of the world, in addition to that, lots of large banks, in addition to that, other types of entities that kind of bind us all. I will say, I feel like PayPal is kind of that entity that has been picked on for many, many years because, again, people have a faint understanding of PayPal, but at the same time, and they might have made an account at some point, but again, it's really important to know what your communications look like from the businesses that you're doing business with, and also view them with a skeptical eye. Number 3, tech support and computer virus scams. Has anyone gotten one of these pop up on your computer? Black screen of death, red screen of death, that type of a thing. A really super common type of scam, and right now these are really the most aggressive types of scams. One of the most aggressive types of scams that we're hearing about. When I started doing this job about 10 years ago, that scam was pretty simple. They would just pretend to be with Microsoft, and they would then tell you, again, there's something wrong with your computer, and they can help you fix it. At that point, too, they would then go and say, you need to pay $500 and let me on your computer. Then they just would get on your computer and not do anything, right? The situation now is they want to get on your computer and they want, or other device, and I think it's important that we say other device here too. I'm talking about tablets, I'm talking about your phone. Anything with a browser on it has potential to be accessed remotely by a program by like AnyDesk, that type of a thing. But I would say what their goal now is to get on that computer and get into your accounts, get into your retirement accounts, get into your bank accounts. So instead of someone calling our helpline and saying, hey Mark, I just lost $400 as part of a tech support scam, they're saying, hey Mark, I just lost $40,000 as part of a tech support scam because someone accessed my bank account remotely and we're able to drain it that way. And so, again, watching out for any attempts like that, for someone trying to get remote access to your device is a really important thing to look for, and I know Anthony's going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Number 4, phishing scams, and Linda illustrated the scam perfectly of what we're seeing the most of right now. Phishing scams via text message is really kind of the hottest scam that we're hearing about, and so again, being really, really cautious of those text messages that are coming through. And understanding that, again, I think our normal phishing attempts that we were thinking about would come via email, right? There were those emails saying you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to click on this, you have to click on that. But right now, I think scammers understand that we are using text messages more than we are our phones because we're not answering these phone calls from these people that we used to, and they're also know that we have better junk filters and spam filters on our emails. But we are seeing a lot of those text messages come through, and so they want eyes on that message in hopes that someone's going to respond or click on a link, that type of a thing. And so just being really cautious of that. How many of you around the holidays got a message that said something about an undeliverable package? It was probably coming from, like, I don't know, I was getting from lots of different countries at one point. By the way, that's a really good way to figure out if a scammer's not doing a good job, is if they don't mask their phone or spoof the phone number, and it still has a country code with it. I got one from Lesotho a couple weeks ago. The DMV is not in Lesotho, I can promise you that. But watching out for those phishing messages, and know that text messages right now are a really hot way for scammers to be trying to contact their victim, probably more than any other type right now. Number 5, home repair and improvement scams. Lots of people like to talk about roofing scams with regards to this. I will say we get, on the helpline, we get 2 different types of scams that I kind of refer to. One, and the least common type, is the fly-by-night operation, where again, someone shows up at your door, says, I'm doing a project for your neighbor, but it looks like you could use your fence being mended or something like that. Or you might need a new roof, that type of a thing. and then they ask for money and then they never come back to do the project. And so that's kind of the least common situation that we hear about. The more common situation is more the straight up issue that you might have with a contractor. And so, again, on the front end of this, doing your research in advance is critically important. Getting referrals, getting multiple bids, all those things. Using referral sites to make sure that you're engaging with the right person, so you don't have to call us and say, well, what recourse do I have? The contractor I'm working with just asked for an extra $40,000 and it doesn't seem like it should be part of the scope of the project, or they're not finishing the project, or whatever it may be. So doing your research in advance might save that phone call to us or to Anthony's office at some point when you're frustrated about what's going on there. Number 6, non-stranger exploitation. This is one that keeps bubbling up for us, and I'll tell you that I do these presentations a lot, and over the last year I've had more people come up to me after I talk about this one and say, hey, I think this is happening to me. But I think it's really important to know that this is happening and it's okay to talk about. This is essentially cases where a loved one is taking advantage of their usually older parent or maybe other older relative financially, and doing so in a way that it's kind of not consensual. And so we get a lot of calls about this because people don't exactly know what to do. It's really important to know that there's a resource called Adult Protective Services out there. It's very similar to like a Child Protective Services, but is meant to protect older adults in situations. And so I think it's, again, really important that folks know that Adult Protective Services exists, first of all, because I think a lot of people don't know that. But again, if you're in a situation where someone, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a caregiver, you believe is taking advantage of you financially, really important to be able to know that there are resources for you in that situation, and Adult Protective Services works directly with local law enforcement to solve those situations too. Again, so just know that resource exists if something like that happens. But at the same time, I think as we all age, it's important to have a network of folks around us to make sure that type of thing is not happening, where again, people are taking advantage of us financially for different reasons. Number 7, online dating and romance scams. If you talk to our volunteers, like our 150 so volunteers who help people deal with scams, I will tell you that you ask them their least favorite type of scam to deal with, it would be this one. Because it usually involves a lot of money, and it usually involves a lot of emotions. Lots of different things going on there. And these things, I wish they would go away, but they seem to just keep getting worse. Right now, we're seeing a lot of instances where scammers are posing as celebrities in different situations and trying to convince their loved one, the person that they're talking to online, that they're in some type of relationship. I will say that, too, you don't have to be on Match.com to be involved in one of these types of scams. Most of them that we're seeing are actually starting on Facebook or Instagram, and they're profiling folks based on pictures and that types of things, maybe widows or widowers, and trying to get them to lure into different types of situations. I will tell you too, one of the things that you might be getting too are text messages that say, hey, how's it going? Or, hey, did you miss the barbecue last week? Or are you doing this? Are you doing that? Kind of a open invitation or open kind of conversation starter. A lot of those are also leading to romance scams. A lot of those are also leading to different types of investment scams as well. And so not engaging with those, I think, is a really important thing, but again, that's one of the ways they start. But again, any unsolicited contact who's asking you for money in different ways, I think it's really important to understand that sometimes a scammer's goal is to build rapport with you so they can eventually ask for more money. And so I think, again, really important to watch out for these, regardless if you're looking for a relationship or not. These types of scams exist in a major way, and they are the most lucrative scams that we generally see. Number 9, imposter business scam, or imposter government scams. When I started this job 10 years ago, imposter government scams were always number 1. And you all might remember some of those calls from the IRS saying, hey, you owe back taxes, and it's a big problem, and if you don't pay right away, we're going to come and arrest you. And I know a lot of you said, come on over, right? And so that type of scam was one that we saw a lot. Then they switched the script because the IRS scam, after doing it for 10 years or whatever, it wasn't working. And so they switched to Social Security, right? And they were calling and saying, this is Social Security, there's something wrong with your Social Security, you're not going to get like your monthly payment next month, that type of a thing. And so, again, that didn't work that well either. I will say right now, one of the most common types of scams that we're seeing with regards to imposter government scams are around jury duty scams. Has anyone gotten a jury duty scam? A couple of folks? Yeah. Jury duty scams, they can be really tricky. And sometimes they, like even on your caller ID, it might show the county that you're in or your local jurisdiction, that type of a thing. Or they might even use names of local sheriffs or government officials. But watching out for those types of scams that are threatening you essentially because you missed jury duty and that you didn't even know that you missed, right? I promise you, and I know Anthony will probably talk about this too, but if jury duty issues are coming through, they're not going to come and arrest you for missing jury duty. You might get a nasty gram that you missed jury duty, but at the same time, they're not going to call and threaten you to arrest you. And so watching out for those more specialized, I would say, and maybe the spearfishing type of attempts around jury duty scams, and less so around kind of the IRS and the Treasury Department and the Medicare scams, even though there are still plenty of those out there. I think some of the most convincing imposter government scams are those ones that we're seeing kind of localized and from local government or state government. And then the last one on this list, fraudulent sales. Most of the fraudulent sales that we're seeing on the helpline are either from like a Facebook marketplace type of situation where someone's asking you to pay with like a peer-to-peer payment app, or scammers creating fake websites and then advertising on social media, like on Facebook and stuff like that, or on Instagram. I think it's, again, really important, like any other kind of business that we do with, especially for companies we've never done business with before, that we do a little bit of extra research about those businesses. And it can be as easy as a Google search or whatever search engine you use, putting in the name of the company or the URL of the company that you're going to buy something from, and then next to it putting the word fraud, scam, complaint, and see if anyone has complained about it before. Because again, it's very easy to create a website these days. And we saw during the pandemic, this type of scam, puppy scams started. They started creating all these fake puppy scams where essentially what they're doing is creating a fake website for a very niche type of animal. And sometimes it can be a kitty or a puppy or a raccoon or a flying squirrel or whatever you want. But at the same time, what they're doing is trying, and they put up stock images on their website and they say, oh, we'll ship it to you since you can't find that cute Yorkie puppy in your neighborhood that you want to buy. And so they put stock images up there and folks are then going and buying them with the hopes of their thing being shipped to them. And then the puppy never shows up and all these things happen. So again, watching out for and doing a little bit of research about anything that you're doing business with on the internet is really critically important. So just a few, and just to underscore the few things that I just talked about. When I talked about tech support scams, just watching out, some of the trends that we're seeing right now is again requesting access to your computer, phone, tablet. So watching out for that. I'm not going to go into the red flags of it because Anthony's going to talk about that. But requests for cryptocurrency as a form of payment is also a trend that we're seeing right now. Offers for easy money, lottery, sweepstakes, grants. Employment, crypto investments are really telling people that they can get involved in a crypto investment online is again a scam that we're seeing a lot of, and again some of the most lucrative scams that we're seeing right now involve that. Again, attempts to steal your identity, and so identity on the national level and on the state level are at the top of our list in terms of most common types of scams. You'll see that website right there. It's very simple, identitytheft.gov. That's the Federal Trade Commission's identity theft website. It's for reporting identity theft. It's also for proactive steps you can take to help prevent identity theft. And again, I know there's a lot of people in here who have been notified that their information is part of a data breach. I think what we have to do is assume that our information is out there in some way, shape, or form, and take those proactive steps. And so if you have not done a credit freeze, which I know a lot of you, at least half of you in here have, it's something to consider. And so identitytheft.gov will direct you to the 3 credit reporting bureaus, the Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian of the world. And you can set up accounts with each of those and do that credit freeze for free. You can also check your annual credit report. When you go to that website, it'll direct you to annualcreditreport.com or the phone number associated with it. And then again, I talked about before, tricky text messages to watch out for as well, in hopes that again, we're making sure that we're not falling into some of the traps that scammers are wanting us to fall into. So I'm going to hand it over to Anthony, and he's going to talk about some red flags, and then we're going to be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. Anthony Aragon from the DA's office, and I just wanted to say thank you. I have been in this role as the Director of Outreach and Engagement for a total of 5 months, and this is my very first fraud and scam presentation. So please be gentle. I just want to say that I learned so much from your presentation, and I cannot believe that they would take advantage of the puppies. I mean, like for real, my heart sank because I am a puppy person, and just the fact that the innocent puppies, you know, are being exploited is it's disheartening. And the credit freeze, I do want to learn more about that as well. But yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about some quick tips around fraud and scams. I was going to say next slide, but I guess that's me. Oh, thank you. I'm used to having people. Next slide, please. So again, these are just some quick tips, which hopefully most of you know about, but it's a good reminder, and there's some things that I want to share from firsthand experience as well. So never answer the phone if you don't recognize the phone number. So scammers can make a phone number appear as a local number. If you don't know the person, just let it go into voicemail. Now, how many people have still answered the phone, honestly? Raise your hands. How many people have still answered the phone? Okay, so I want to give you an example. So I was in an accident a few weeks ago. My car got totaled, and I was waiting for insurance to call, and so they said a claims person is going to call. And so the phone number I didn't recognize, but I answered it. Full disclosure, I answered it. It happened to be the insurance person. Okay, they said 1 to 3 days, the claims adjuster is going to call you. The next day, a phone number I didn't recognize, I answered, and it was the claims adjuster. Okay, but that's not always the case, and I think that that's a lesson learned here. I need to really practice what I preach when I'm presenting this. And I appreciate the people that were honest, that raised their hands, that yes. But for the most part, if I don't know the phone number, I just let it go into voicemail, because especially as we gear up for another political season, the phone rings constantly, and I just let it go into voicemail. Shred, shred, shred. So any document, mailing label that has your name or address on it, you need to shred that. Okay. Full disclosure, how many people have shredders in the audience? Oh my gosh, what? Oh, you're breaking my heart, but I love it, right? So, again, full disclosure, right? You're gonna learn from me what not to do, okay? So, you know, I go to the mailbox and I get all the mail, and a lot of it's like credit card applications or just junk mail, right? So what do? I just cut it in like half and then in half again, and then I throw it in the garbage. See, thank you, you're shaking your head, right? Exactly, that is not the right thing to do, especially since we have a shredder at the office. So I need to be better about that, right? But then it's about convenience and it's about habit. It's just always something I've done. But it does, you know, the trash goes out, so the trash got put out tonight for it to be picked up tomorrow. So it's in a trash bag. Someone can actually go through that trash, and then if they're really resourceful, and I've seen other examples of this, they actually pay people to like put it all back together, right? It's a jigsaw puzzle, it's a puzzle, and they can take all of that shredded information and all of those numbers that you thought that you know tore in half, and they can put it back together. So this is a really valuable lesson for me tonight of what not to do, so thank you. I need to stop doing that, right? So I really appreciate just the number of hands that went up that have shredders. Thank you. And make copies. So again, if you think that not if you think, but if your wallet gets stolen and all of the information that's contained in your wallet, if you went ahead and made copies of that information, then it might be a little bit easier as you go through and replace. And then you at least remember what you had in your wallet. Like I think I could go through my wallet, or I could from memory go through my wallet right now, and I know exactly every single credit card or health card where it's at, because I'm a creature of habit and I keep it in the same place. So I would know if it's, I think I lost it if it's not in the place where it's supposed to be. But I think that's a really good reminder. And remember, how many people still have their original Social Security card? Wow. Yay, look at all those hands. She laughs.
88 years.
88 years? Well, I'm 58. Okay, I just turned 58. So for 58 years, but I still know where it's at. It's at home. It's not in a safe place. It's at home in a box, but at least I know where it's at. But you should never, ever carry your Social Security card with you. Next slide, please. Let's see who's willing to do that. Okay. So here's another. Pick up checks from the bank. So how many people, when you do we even use checks anymore? I still do. I'm old-fashioned, right? I still like to write a check. I mean, it costs $87 for a stamp now, but in the good old days when it was the forever stamp, that it was 40. I think it was 42 cents the last time. But when I order checks, convenience, right? Convenience is what's going to get us. So I go online, I order the checks, they come in the mail. I don't check my mail every day. It's in a box, down the alley on a street, which actually probably 2 months ago was broken into. The entire thing had to be replaced. But how many people have their checks delivered to their home? Okay, see, it's all about honesty, right? It's not about, judgment. There is no judgment here, right? We're here to learn together. And I'm a prime example of exactly what you should not be doing. So I'm losing this quiz really bad, I will tell you. So use strong new passwords. So, and this came up too, and unfortunately I'm guilty of it. I like to use the same password for everything because I remember it. I try not to write them down because I don't want them in a place where maybe they might get stolen. How many people have more than one password? Okay. I used to only have one, and then I got rid of it, and now, because money was stolen from my checking account years ago, and so I have since at least changed my login for my checking account to something that is very unique to me. But now, probably for the past year, I've used kind of the same one, and the only difference is I add an exclamation mark sometimes. Y'all are laughing at me. At least I'm being honest, right? It's like the things that you shouldn't do. Like Anthony was doing his presentation, and let me tell you the things that you should not do. But yeah, I think that's another really great example of use strong new passwords. The one thing I work for city government, I think, is every 3 months you have to change your password, which then means that I have to go through and change, my login on my phone, and there's like 4 or 5 different other logins I have to change the password for. And I need to get out of the habit that it's an inconvenience, but it's a safety measure. And I think if you approach it from everything that you're doing is keeping your guard up and not so much about what's the most convenient for me, I think is going to make a difference. So that's another one that I think I need to do a better job of. And then be cautious of sending valuable mail from home. So I do know that we have a mailbox, and it has a slot that you can put mail for the post person to pick up. But I think important documents that you should either take them to the post office, or if you're employed, you can we have an ability to leave it with our employer, and then it gets picked up. And so now, next slide, I want to talk about some technology tricks. So again, don't believe your caller ID. Do not pay for anything you didn't order. Never prepay for a service. Don't respond to offers to opt out of future calls that alerts callers to a working number. Disregard urgent emails. I don't know about you, I've had my Yahoo account for umpteen years, and it's the same one, but I probably get 5 to 10 emails, every couple of days for these, you want a tractor. Like I live and work in an urban area. I'm not in rural. What am I going to do with the tractor? Driving on the streets of Denver, Colorado, right? And so, those though, but I would like to, to ask our expert here some questions about, do you just delete them, or, is there a way to report them as spam? So we're gonna get that question answered. Pay attention to the email addresses. That goes with phishing as well. If you're looking at, you get an email, who is the email from, and does it match? Like johnwayne9@gmail.com versus johnwayne9@yahoo.com. Well, that's kind of rude because I have a Yahoo account. And Gmail is the newest, cutting out, I guess, the newest wave of, of email technology. Next slide, please. So do not click on any links. How many people do, though? Do we have, okay, yeah, I know. It's just, it's interesting because I check the DA info email, which is our general district attorney email box, and I get a lot of interesting emails, but some of the info, sometimes there is an attachment, and it looks like it's from a law firm, or looks legitimate, but then my coworker who was training me said, never open an attachment that you don't know who it's from. Well, I obviously don't know that person, but clearly there's information in that attachment that coincides with this email information. So, but I think on a personal level, if you didn't order something or you don't know who this email is from, then you should never click on links. And do not call customer service numbers provided in emails or texts, even if they look legitimate. And double check the numbers you are calling, and if something doesn't feel right, hang up. And then our last slide before we really get into some meat and potatoes of why we're here tonight. So safety, safety first. And these things, may seem like common sense, but I'm a good example of I like to think I'm knowledgeable, that I have common sense, but clearly I have some work to do, right? So, and I own that, especially after tonight. So I need to slow down, right? It's not about what's the most convenient and the fastest way to get something done. I don't know about you all, but I'm always, in a hurry. And I just need to slow down. And especially when you're going through emails, and anything that you're checking, like I check my checking account online, my credit card balance online, but I feel like those are safe because they're different logins with passwords. But do I necessarily need to do that every day? Probably not, right? And so nothing is an emergency unless it's your health or your house is on fire. Breathe. Take 5 to 10 deep breaths, exhaling longer than you inhale, and reset your critical thinking brain. And that again just goes with slow down. I think that, it is okay also, it is okay to ask for help, first and foremost. Now, if you don't have blood family that's near you, that's close to you, maybe they're not nearby you, ask a neighbor, ask a friend, ask a trusted confidant. It is absolutely okay to ask for help because it could make the difference between you losing money, you being taken advantage of, and you not being taken advantage of. And so I think it's really important. I know for me, I definitely, that I do well. I do ask for help. Trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, stop, ask questions, and then seek help from trusted sources. And do your research, double check the phone numbers, contact a family member or a trusted friend, loved one, drive to the bank. I don't do any of my banking online, although it is an 800 number that is legit. But you're also putting in you're putting in your checking account number, and then you're putting in your PIN, and you never know that it could be like, this is Wells Fargo. I'll tell you what bank is, oops. But, that I know that it's Wells Fargo, I know it's the same number it's been for years. But I have, for me to get phone verification, I have a 2-step process, so I have to be transferred to a live person to get the information or to transfer money via the phone. That's just something, at least one thing that I was able to do correctly. So that is our presentation. Again, what we want to do is we've got about a half hour to hear from all of you, right? We've shared a lot of information, and we definitely want to hear your thoughts. Yeah, so Mark, did you want to go through it? You can turn off the slides if you'd like. Okay, thank you.
Can I just interrupt a bit and just say that we'll put this presentation on our webpage, so any of you want it's a PDF, so tomorrow morning it'll be up there. If you just look under the recent news articles, you'll see a link to the recording of tonight, and it will also have a link to get this PDF for you if you want to get it and print it.
And the one thing I forgot to mention, so there's a woman in the city attorney's office who also does fraud and scam presentations. Her name is Lynn, and some of the information that I shared tonight came from a presentation that she previously did. So I wanted to make sure to acknowledge Lynn and thank her for helping with that information. But before we go, let's start with audience. I can wait on my stuff. It's not about me. So did you have a question?
Yeah, I called the Attorney General's office after we had Applewood Plumbing. I've been waiting for that day. To come to our house and charge us. Closer. Okay, I'm sorry. We called the Attorney General's office. And this is embarrassing for my husband who wants to die. He was a plumbing and heating contractor. But we had Applewood Plumbing come to our house, replace a part, spend 45 minutes there. We went out to buy the part. He told us it was $48. They charged us $1,300. I called every person I could in Applewood Plumbing. That's the way they do business, and I'm just delighted to be able to let you guys know that.
Do you have a microphone, Mark? In case.
Thank you guys for being here. So recently there have been some scams using QR codes. And in Cherry Creek, where you can download an app, point at the sign, you download the pay to park app, and it directed you to a false place. So I think that's fairly new. All of us who use Amazon, you get a return code, you trust that code. We use them for everything now. We put codes out to direct people to our events and other things. How do you legitimize a QR code? How would you vet those kinds of things? They're with us now, so how do we protect ourselves?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, and honestly a really tough one, because it's hard to notice if something's been tampered or not, but at the same time, it's great that we have news partners that are able to tell us that this type of thing is going on at some point, but at the same time I will also say, again, I would view it very much like what happens when they put skimmers on a like on a gas pump, yeah. And so if you see any type of tampering situation, be skeptical of it and maybe go directly to the website rather than using the QR code, though I know that we're used to using the QR code. And so when I say that, that essentially means if they might have placed a sticker or something else on top of it, or if it's a little bit cattywampus, that type of thing. I know you don't want to have to spend all your time sitting there and you're trying to park and you're trying to do so fast, but at that point too, again, if you think that there's a potential for it, they usually will give you a website also that you can go to instead of just using the QR code that you can use. Additionally, if you do use the QR code and it goes to a website that does not associate with the name of the company, that would also be another way of potentially identifying what's going on there. It's really tough, and I think that's again, something that I hope we don't have to deal with too much down the road, but at the same time, it is a different type of scam that's, again, trying to infiltrate different parts of our lives, and so just be extra vigilant in those situations. Again, another thing that I think is really important that we're doing is using our credit cards rather than our debit cards in these situations to make sure that there's extra protections when you use your credit card rather than your debit card. And so doing that is a way to make sure that money is not being drawn out of your account rather than it being used the bank's money or Visa or MasterCard's money. Anything to add?
Yeah, I think what resonates with me is if you are a frequent parker, if you park your car frequently in Cherry Creek North and you know that you're going to have to pay to go ahead and download the website right away and not use the QR code at all, right? So if you are in a hurry, I got to download this website, it's like not this, but if you already have it downloaded, it's one less step that you have to take.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. Another scam that I've been aware of is that in the stores or in the gas stations, they put on the scanner, where you put your credit card, the scammers put a very thin, exactly looks the same as, the digital that you usually type on. And if you lift it a little bit with your nail, you'll see that it is something that they put on top and they can scan your credit card. And then on the QR codes, I noticed that many of those scams, they put a very thin sticker on top of it, So also, before I scan a QR code, I always try to scratch to see if there is a sticker on it.
Yeah, the
But
news
the-
ran that story, yeah.
Yeah, the ones on the, it happened to us, traveling from Colorado to Utah, that somebody had put in a gas station and they scanned it and we noticed right away that it looked exactly the same, but you pulled it a little bit. And they had put one on top of it that disguised it and they could scan your credit card.
So I have one thing that I forgot to mention. So I used to drive on I-70 East, and we have a toll road. And so for a while, there was that toll road scam that was happening, and I was getting these texts that you've entered a toll road and you now owe this amount of money. And so I was literally thinking to myself, this is where, trust your gut. But it's like, well, wait a minute, I drive I-70 every day home. Did I cross the line and I went in that lane? And I really had to think for a minute. It's like, no, I never did. Like, this has to be a scam. So I think, if it doesn't sound right, it probably isn't. But a question for you, Mark, is do you just delete it and then they go away?
And are you talking specifically about emails or text messages?
The toll road scam.
The toll road scam. Yeah, I think the toll road scam has gotten to the point where it is it's kind of a delete or mark as junk and have it go away. I will say though, I think it's really important as these scams change very frequently, that if you see something new that again you think could be tricky for someone else, that's the time to report it and make sure you know. And again, I think a lot of people will believe that marking. We all know that scammers change the numbers frequently, right? They're spoofing the numbers, they're changing them frequently. And if you're getting the same number over and over and over again with the same scam or the same call, I've been getting these tax calls every frickin' day, and they're driving me insane. But they're always from a different number. And so me blocking that number, it again sends a message to the phone company that tells them that was a scam number, or that if I mark it as spam, it sends again a message to the phone company that that's a scam number, and then that's why that scam likely might come up on your phone the next time, and for other people as well. But at the same time, again, they're going to change their numbers over and over and over again. So I think, again, when you see these types of things, when you're thinking about reporting it and you think, well, when do I have to report every scam? Because we're going to just sit there and be reporting scams all day. We can't even do anything else, right? Think about what other people might be kind of vulnerable to, and if you haven't seen it before and it seems extra tricky, that's the time to call and make a report to somewhere else, or report it online to different authorities, DA's office, the Attorney General's office, our office, so we can help warn people about those different types of things as they come out. We work really closely with the news stations too to make sure that this information is getting out as it's coming out. But yes, I mean, I think they're coming out in such great frequency that sometimes people have phone plans where they can't block every number that comes through or to start charging them. And so again, just knowing that it is, I think, if it makes you feel better, go ahead and do it, but it's probably not going to stop the next scam from coming through.
I just wanted to make the point of suggesting that people don't give up if something does happen. We had a situation where we had a dear friend who was living in an independent living facility, and she fell for a scam where someone made her feel like if she didn't give them $375,000, someone was going to kill their family. So she went to the bank. The bank said, you have to come in personally or we're not going to do this. She went in personally, she signed for it, and the money was released, and the money went off. Well, then, of course, I got the phone call, and myself and another person then pursued it. And my point being is, a major bank in New York had a fabulous anti-fraud group, and they were able to go to Thailand, reach into the bank account of the scammer, pull the money out, and then I received a phone call from them saying, well, the good news is, they said, do you want the good news or the bad news? I said, well, of course I want the good news. And they said, the good news is we got your $375,000 for your friend. The bad news is there's going to be a service fee of $75. But the point is that had we not pursued it full on, it took us 5 days, but that bank was able to go and get that money. And you guys may hear more about these things? I'd be curious to know if you hear these situations.
Yeah, we work with a lot of people all over the country about this, and I will say that's a great story because it's so nice to hear when that type of thing happens. A lot of the times, the money is gone just because these scams are, but if you find the right advocate on your side, there's there's opportunities. And honestly, I will say that in a lot of situations, there's money thresholds as to when you're going to find help from certain authorities, that types of things too. But at the same time, there's a lot of really great people out there working on this. But I think part of the problem right now is just the scope is so great. And so the law enforcement, they're oftentimes are just stretched to the limit in terms of helping out folks. But making reports is the first way to start, and then following up with reports is the way to go. And so like calling our type of helpline, one of the things that we're going to do is start directing you to all the right authorities to report to, and then go from there based on that. But working with your bank and working with local authorities, making that report are really important ways to start for something like that actually to happen.
Well, I can't remember the exact bank. I think it was probably Chase International. And they were able to go, and like I said, they were able to do it. They had a group of people, and everybody really worked together for a week. And we were able to get that. We were very lucky.
One quick point and then a question. That DMV scam has become so common that when it happened to me, I called the DMV and there was a recording that came on immediately saying that you got this notice of having to pay this amount. It's a scam, don't pay it. So I guess it's already being addressed by the DMV. But the question I have for you is this. You're advising a number of steps we can take to protect ourselves from these scams, but is there any effort on the part of law enforcement in Colorado or Denver to pursue any of these scammers so that we can go after them and maybe have some sort of a case that gets some publicity and hopefully scares the next guy off?
I'll give you my short answer, and do you have some? Okay. Yeah. So many of these scams, and as illustrated by this scam too, so many of these scams are internationally based. And I'd say if you're getting scam phone calls, I would say 90 to 95% of them are originating somewhere overseas, somewhere on the other side of the world, and which is really frustrating. I will say that I know that there are FBI agents that are stationed in hot spots. So I'm talking about like Jamaica, a couple spots in Africa, a couple spots in India, that type of a thing too. And so there has been coordination, but it really does require coordination between with other countries as well. And that's one of the things that makes it so difficult is extraditing these people, all these different types of things. And some of you might have heard about this as it's something in the news a lot right now, or not a lot, but in our circles. But there's call centers where people are essentially just making phone calls in kind of like as kind of prisoners, and in other countries in Southeast Asia, and it's become a real big problem. And so a lot of the scams are originating there for people who don't have a choice whether they're doing it or not, essentially. But I think Anthony can probably address locally.
Yeah, so again, we have, in the DA's office, we have an economic crimes unit, which is where these cases are investigated. So if you think that you've been a victim of a fraud or a scam, you can email us, and then we have a couple of individuals in the economic crimes unit that then investigates those cases locally.
Just a quick point before we go on it. With regards to the phone call, if you use a cell phone predominantly, and I can't speak to the Android ecosystem, but in an iPhone, you can tell your iPhone to only answer calls from your contacts. So if they're not in your contact list, it'll go straight to voicemail. And if it's important enough, they're going to leave a voicemail anyway. So it does tend to detract the scammers from persisting, because it doesn't even ring. It just goes straight to voicemail. So it's certainly worth thinking about if you want to use it.
Yes, recently I've received from Costco
offers that if I up my membership by a few dollars, whatever it is, they will give me wonderful gifts. And they had like about 15 gifts that didn't interest me, but one of them was a Dyson vacuum cleaner, and I got very excited. And I thought, this can't be for real. So I called Costco on Havana, spoke to the manager, and the manager said, this is not us. And I said, well, they're using Costco as a scam. And he said to me, I don't care, we have our own group of people. So that was the end of that one.
Anthony?
Yeah. And I just want to address that point real quick. I think it's really important to again watch out for these imposter business scams. Again, amongst businesses that many of us use. And I will say we recently had one where people were an imposter, very similar type of situation for AARP. They were sending out messages saying that we'll send you a free health kit, and again, plastering AARP's logo all over it. Some people here might have received that, and it was not coming from AARP. It was coming from someone else. But Steve Steger sent me one of those emails that he had received, and I sent it to our legal department, and they were able to send a cease and desist notification to that company. I don't know if they responded to it, but some of those complaints have stopped coming into us. So it's ended up being one of those situations where, again, we can handle those things because they were coming all across the country.
Anthony, what is your, do you have a number in your head of what the clearance rate is for these kind of cases?
Clearance rate?
Yeah, solved.
Oh.
Solve fraud and scam cases that the district attorney prosecutes.
Yeah.
I do not have that information with me right now, but I can give you my card and I can definitely get you that information for sure.
Oh, yes.
Just Google it. Anytime you get an email that looks weird, Google it, and every single time it's said, there's a big scam going on. Message.
It's a great point. Just those little bits of research like that can keep you from lots of trouble, and the quick Google search does a lot.
Just in the last month, we had a situation, you mentioned checks before, we don't write hardly any checks. We wrote a check 3 months ago, local check here in Cherry Creek. All of a sudden it came through, and the $75 check that we had written turned into $759, written to a completely different person. And luckily Safeway caught it, and UMB Bank caught it, and it wasn't paid, but we called the person that we wrote the check to, and she said she had no idea how somebody had gotten the check, had gotten a copy of it, and had no idea. And the bank had no idea, and then now it's in fraud. But you gotta be careful with your checks that you write.
Yeah, check washing is still a thing. I think a lot of people think of it as an old school crime. It is definitely not. I did a presentation like this about a month ago with Broomfield Police Department, and they started their part of their presentation just talking about checks because they had seen so many check washing incidents there. I will say that if I was able to stop my mom from writing checks, which I am never able, I would be some type of savior. But I think it's really important that again, we acknowledge that checks are not as safe or feeling as safe as they used to be. And so if we can avoid writing checks in different situations, I think it's a great thing to do. Because again, it has your routing number and your bank account number right on it. And so the person you're giving that check to is someone you really have to trust.
Two things. Writing checks, use the right ink that they can't lift. I had a sister-in-law, they put their check outside the post office, outside. Somebody stole it out of the post office box, turned it into $8,000. And they said, use the right ink. The other thing that I understand is AI is so sophisticated today. You get on the telephone and you talk to one of these unknown calls, they can record your voice and then transfer it. You never use the word yes.
Thank you. And all right, Mark, no more check writing for me. I'm just old school. It just felt good to write a check and put it in there, but I will tell you, I would at least cover it with like a piece of paper so that because the envelopes are thin, so I would at least write a note that this is the check. and then I would kind of cover the check so that it wasn't the check that you saw. If you looked into, if you know, looked up. Okay, never mind, Mark. I'll just stop writing checks.
So, I write very few checks too, but someone took one of the checks I wrote. They used the routing number. They ordered new checks with my routing number and their name, and went to Costco and spent $5,000, and went to Sam's Club and spent another $5,000. And I caught it, I look at my check register every month. And so I caught it, and of course, I wasn't charged for it, but the bank did say that so many people don't look at their check registers, and it can be months, especially if you have a lot of money in that account, before you realize that you've spent $10,000 that you really didn't. So I would say check your check registers.
So one thing that I want to just leave everybody with also is there is no shame if you become a victim of a fraud or a scam. And I think that, you know, societal somehow wants us to think that somehow we did something wrong, and we did not. We are the victim of a crime. And I think it's really important and valuable that you share that information with AARP, with the DA's office, with other people, so that they can have their guard up, and they're like, oh, I remember so-and-so said that this happened to them, and this is how it happened. This sounds like the exact same thing. And so I think the more that we share our stories, if we have been a victim of a fraud or a scam, then we're empowering our other community members to be on the lookout and to have their guard up. And so if something seems fishy, they might even reach out to you. It's, oh, remember that when you shared what happened to you, can you give me some more information? Oh my gosh, this is the exact same thing that's about to happen to me. I'm so glad I got a hold of you. So I think just be mindful of that. Again, when I said, and I put an emphasis on, it is absolutely okay to ask for help, because we cannot do this alone, because there are so many more of them than there are of us. And the sophisticated tools that they continue to use. I have a question for you, Mark. So you had your top 10 list, and it was from 24 or 25, and you've been doing this for a dozen years? 10? Okay. How large was the list when you first started?
Well, there's a lot more scams that are happening, but I mostly just focus on the ones that we're seeing the most. And so there are lots of other scams that follow into different categories, but I think it's, you know, obviously, like an employment scam, for instance, is one that wouldn't show up there, but we're seeing a lot of right now.
I have a question and a point. The question is payment method of PayPal. Do you have any opinions? Because my opinion is it's completely insecure unless you use a credit card to top up your PayPal, because then you can go and charge your credit card back. That's the first one. The second one is I have a disagreement with you, Anthony, which is, I'm sorry, but to Annette's point, you're advocating against using the online banking system. The online banking system is far more secure than putting a check in an envelope and sending it through the mail. If you set up your online banking, you can set thresholds. Your bank will send you a text message if they receive a check over the threshold you set. So if you say, tell me any charge that goes over $300 or $200, you're going to know instantly. So a lot of it's much safer to put your routing number into a secure website than it is to actually call up and do that. So I think the banks spend millions counteracting it, and the post office don't. So that would be my point.
And actually, not to correct, but I do online banking. I wasn't advocating not to. I mean, I was sharing that I'm on there. Well, I have called before, just I have a dual security system. It's all good. But no, I was saying that I check it every day and maybe I shouldn't with online banking. That was my comment. Okay, maybe time for one or two more.
I have a quick question. Right into here. Yes, okay. Is it safe to use apps on my phone? I mean, I can get my bank account within 2 seconds on my phone.
Is it safe to do that using the bank app?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you're making sure that, just understand that in some worlds, there are also some pretend apps that they get on there and they try to pretend to be different major companies that we're familiar with. So as long as you're receiving it from the bank that you're working with, yes, I don't see any reason why not to. Totally agree with these guys. I mean, banking online, though I know it's not for everybody, and I'm not the person who likes to sit up here and say everyone must bank online, because I know that just doesn't work for everybody. But I think in terms of checking your bills and checking, as the gal in the back said, making sure you check your statements regularly. I literally check mine on a daily basis to make sure nothing is going on. And if I could convince other people to do that too, when you're accessing it via secure connection, I think it's really important. I think people get in trouble in situations where they might be accessing their bank app or their bank website when they're using free public Wi-Fi somewhere. And so being really cautious about what you're doing it, not doing it at the airport or not doing it at Starbucks, but doing it again at home or your workplace where you're using a secure connection, I think is really important, and remembering that too. I think having apps and different types of apps on your phone can open up issues for doing things like if someone were to access your device remotely, they might have easier access on that app to your bank account. Again, if you're logging in without having to log in every time. And so being really cautious about making sure you have to log in every time to your bank account, or use your fingerprint or facial recognition or whatever it may be, rather than it just automatically showing up. So again, if you lose your phone or someone else has access to your phone or device, they can't automatically get into that bank account. Make sense?
Also, I recommend using two-step verification. So they text me, I can't get in unless I have a second step. Might be a little bit of a pain, but I think it's a lot more secure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's a pain in the butt, but it's a pain in the butt that's going to save maybe a lot of money down the line. And so great advice.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Again, it's just what's convenient, right? It's just one more step. But I want to just reiterate what Mark said. I never access my bank information on my phone. Ever. I just don't do that. And even if I try not to use the free Wi-Fi at the airport or at a Starbucks because it's an unsecured network. So again, just really hitting home that you should never try to access your banking information unless it's a secured network. All right, Linda, I think we're about out of time. Yeah.
How did he do for his question? I want to thank both of you. You gave a lot of information, and we'll use our media and outreach sources to be sure that we put your information and not your contacts, but just the information on your slides.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Yes. If anybody needs an email, I think you can put my work email in the presentation. That's totally acceptable as well. Thank you all for coming.
Yes.